Hello, good evening and welcome back to In the Know with Racing Post and Coral. It's a big, long, fantastic week of racing at Royal Ascot and we are here to preview every last drop of it. We've got 8 Group 1s to come this week, 3 on day 1, Group 2s, Group 3s, listed races, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, older horses, handicaps, you name it. We've got it, and we'll be previewing with some top tipsters and some price boosts throughout the next 5 nights as well. We're a little bit later, of course, than we were for earlier festival fun because Royal Ascot starts a bit later as well, 2:30 till 6 for the rest of the week. And of course, I'm sure some of you will be watching the European Championships and it fits in perfectly between that second and third match this week as well. So I hope you'll join us for the whole shebang. And hopefully we'll find a few nice price winners as well, and maybe get in before the rain clouds open later on this week. But we'll get to that a little bit later on. First things first, my name is Ross Brierley, and I'll be your host throughout the next 5 nights in the company of some very fine gentlemen indeed. A couple of reminders, if you are watching this at home, you could be watching it on Facebook, you could be watching it on YouTube, or you could be sending us comments, sometimes positive, on Twitter as well. But don't forget to like and subscribe to YouTube and set those notifications as well so you do not miss an episode. And of course, if you are getting involved this week, we've got a very special offer on the Racing Post Members Club. We're offering 50% off for the first 3 months if you use the code INTHEKNOW. And it is absolutely vital to be looking at those draw biases and replays as we get going for Ascot this week. So let's get stuck in, but first things first, let's introduce you to our panel for the evening and for most of the week as well. And to my left, once again, tanned and ready to go, it's Mr. Paul Kealy.
How you doing? Yeah, ready to go. This is, you know, it doesn't get the fanfare of, say, the Cheltenham Festival, but it is far and away the best flat meeting of the season, isn't it, in Britain. Absolutely love it. I've had 2 absolute shockers the last 2 years, so I don't know whether I'm trying to work harder or change my strategy or what, but I need to pull my finger out a little bit. Hopefully I've got a few for tomorrow.
All right, okay. Not the. I was expecting all guns blazing, full confidence.
Oh, I'll be bullish. Don't worry about that. It's just that I'm aware that I've been bullish before and it's all gone pear-shaped.
So you're changing tack. You're going in you're not expecting anything, and therefore you can't be disappointed.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. That's the best way to look at life, isn't it? You know, why be an eternal optimist?
Absolutely. Well, we've got Paul Kealy being the pessimist in the studio, which means Tom Segal at home. You're going to have to play the role of the optimist, my good man.
Yeah, I'm expecting to have 35 winners, Ross. No problems.
That's what we like to hear. 35 winners, yeah, absolutely. Are we putting them all in it? Can you get a 35 fold on? I don't know. Is anyone going to lay you that?
My game, Mr. Stevens. Can I get a 35 fold on?
Let's talk about this after the show, Tom.
And of course, we do have David Stevens, head of PR at Coral, our sponsors for the week. David, it is red hot racing. It's red hot weather as well, at least for a few days, and you must be in for a long one, especially, like I said, with the football on as well. It's a busy week for you.
It's a brilliant week, Ross. If you're a sports fan, it doesn't get any better than this summer, and this week, next week in particular, is going to be fantastic. As Tom alluded to, there are 35 races, of course. They've made the changes from last year permanent, which is fantastic. 7 races a day, 7 more chances to back a winner. Paul said, best week of the flat season, best week of the year for me. Just obviously very disappointed. Normally at this stage, I'd be brushing down the top hat, the waistcoat, but they'll have to wait another year. I've joined Keels in the very casual, just off the golf course look today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Rob just came in and told me to button up one of my buttons, but it's not the same for Paul. So, you know, maybe
I can't do mine up, can I? Let's be fair.
Fair enough. Touche. Just before we crack on with the first race, just a few golden rules for Ascot betting and whatnot. I mean, it's one of my favourite weeks of the year because time and time again, the same things happen. And obviously the best horses win, Paul, but in terms of run styles and draw biases and the way things work out, Ascot is pretty consistent, really. Yeah,
it is really. I mean, the one thing I say about draw bias is even if there isn't a draw bias, but because the jockeys perceive there is one, there will be. And in the last few years on the straight course, it's been a tendency. Let's come up the stand side wherever we're drawn. To the extent that I think I was looking at some previous races in the Hunt Cup Consolation last year. I think the first home on the far side was 7th.
Yeah.
You know, and from a smaller group.
Well, again, because we talk about draw biases, but it's pace biases mostly as well.
Yeah.
So if everyone comes over to this side, that's where the pace will be.
But they do tend to want to shun the far side for some reason, and it's happened to me before. I mean, there was one a few years ago when bless him, who runs in the opener tomorrow, when he won the Britannia, I told lots of people to back it beforehand at 20 to 1. And it was 40 to 1 on the morning of the race because it was drawn over on the far side, and I never touched it because I thought it had no chance, and it won. So I mean, it can happen, but as we saw at the last meeting at Ascot, they all want to come over to the stand side.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom, talking of draw biases, we were talking that box one couldn't win an Oaks or a Derby, but that didn't stop you putting up a 50 to 1 winner of the feature race a couple of weeks ago. Are you as die-hard or going against the die-hards with draw and pace biases this week?
I'm always like to be fluid about these sort of things, Ross. I think things can change really quickly. I'm like Keels. I've got a horror story. I knew Segal was my horror story. I tipped him actually for the paper at about 50 to 1 a few years ago, and called the page back because he was drawn 1, and the whole week had been won by the stand side. And I thought I'm going to look stupid if when I tip 1 on track 1, of course, New Segal went and won, and everyone was like, I literally stopped the paper for a few minutes to get the page brought back. So I learned my lesson there. I'm going to be more fluid about it. I think tomorrow, they'll come up the middle. I think that's just what they do. I think that these biases start coming, or the jockeys, as Keel says, when the big handicaps get involved on the straight track, and that starts with the hunt up. I think really tomorrow. I think for the first day, hung up on Wednesday. I think for the first day they'll just go straight. I don't expect there to be any bias tomorrow. I think they'll just come up the middle like they did last year. So I'm not expecting there to be too much to I'm not going to concern myself about it anyway.
Okay, very well. I mean, the one thing that those two horses, of course, bless him, and New Segal had in common was Jamie Spencer, who does ride this track incredibly well because his style suits the late closes and the stiff finish of Ascot. So we'll get to that anyway. We've got handicaps aplenty, and I'm sure by the end of the week we'll be every single one of us will have at least one horse that we thought we could have backed but didn't. But let's start off with many people's banker of the entire week in the first race of the festival. Of course, Palace Pier is a very long odds-on favourite and should be winning this pretty easily. He's 4 to 11. Order of Australia is 13 to 2. Lope Fernandez is 12 to 1. It's 14 to 1 Top Rank, 20 to 1 Regal Reality, 22 to 1 Sabuska, and 25 to 1 Lord Glitters, 33 to 1 the aforementioned Bless Him for this opening race of Royal Ascot 2021. Paul, I'll come to you first. Of course, tomorrow we've got one of potentially the best milers in the world. We've got one of the best sprinters, maybe in Batash, coming up a little bit later on as well. The thing about Palace Pier is we still don't quite know how good he is.
No, we don't. But we do know that he's better than these, and
Yes.
and that's the problem. I think he's officially got £8 in hand of everything, and it looked like it was at least that when he won the Lockins, didn't it? Like, there's a slight question mark whether he wants to ground as fast as it's likely to be, although they put 10 mil on this morning. We know how hot it's been, so that will have been burned off, so it will be on the far side of good, I think, for sure, on the opening day. But, yeah, I mean, he just, he might not be a brilliant miler, but the others in the race are palpably not. And we would, without him, we'd be saying what an incredibly weak race this is, and basically anything can win it. And I've got no great enthusiasm for taking him on now. I did back Lord Glitters each way at a big price last week because I just, it was 50 to 1, I think, and you can't. I didn't think he would represent a 10 to 1 shot to hit the first three. But this is the only race in which no bookmaker is offering extra place odds, and you can tell why. I mean, it's a red hot favourite, and should win.
Yeah, absolutely. Palace Pier then is a very short price favourite. David, I'm going to come to you first. Just how do people play this race? Do you think, from a punter's perspective, are you expecting Palace Pier to just go in accumulators throughout the week to try and boost those odds, or are you looking at people trying to take advantage of those each way places and maybe find something at a bigger price to sneak in the frame?
Yeah, I mean, all of the above, to be honest. There'll be plenty of people that put Palace Pier in the accumulators along with the likes of Batash. There'll be those that look at him and think, well, look, he'll win, but I can't back him at 4 to 11, but I'm not going to back against him. And there are those that try and find something each way against him. So, look, from our point of view, this won't be the biggest turnover race of the meeting because of the presence of the odds-on favourite. But there are 34 more races to come. He's head and shoulders above the rest here. I thought he was brilliant at Newbury. I don't think there's anything new opposing him that's has the potential to cause a shock. Perhaps the ground, as Kealy said, maybe quicker than ideal, but look, he's a wonderful miler, and let's hope he proves it, because this meeting is one of the best in the world, and you want to see the world's best horses win here. Absolutely.
John Gosden never won this race, of course. Hasn't had many opportunities. Terabellum went about as close as you can come last year. Elusive Kate and Gregorian. So far in the past few years, he's had 4th, 3rd, and 2nd. Tommy's likely to have 1st in Palace Pier. What do you have up your sleeve in terms of chasing him home?
It's a tricky one, because as Kealy says, they're all about the same. I would be against the 2 O'Brien horses, to be honest. I presume Audio of Australia with Ryan on is the first choice. He was a revelation, wasn't he? Dropped back to a mile in the Breeders' Cup, having won over. I think he won his maiden over a mile and a half, didn't he? And he's by Australia, obviously, so he's bred to get a lot further. But clearly, he's a miler. I don't think the Breeders' Cup form represents anything like what Palace Pier's done. So I'm against him. I don't understand Lope Fernandez. I keep falling for him, and he keeps running badly. The ground was soft, but he would have been beaten after 3 furlongs in the Lockinge. Top Rank's not good enough. Regal Reality's a bit bonkers, isn't he? Pulls too hard. I think the 3 Keels might have mentioned there, Lord Glitters, Sir Busker, and Bless Him. And you take your pick about which one you like. Personally, I would go for Bless Him, simply because he's unbeaten on the straight track over a mile. As pointed out, he won the Britannia, and then he won a handicap on the bridle, beating none other than Lord North. So, who is, I think, favourite or second favourite for the Prince of Wales is later in the week. We know how good he is. So I just thought Jamie Spencer's going to ride him, and he will ride him to be in the frame. So at a slightly bigger price than the other 2, he would be my choice to hit the frame. But I'm hoping Palace Pier wins, like the boys say. It's the best flat meeting in the world, and you want the best horses to win.
Yeah, very well. Palace Pier then 4 to 11 here. Just a few stats before we move on. 4-year-olds have won 21 of the last 28. So Palace Pier very much in the prime for this kind of race. The Tory wanted to win this race for the 7th time. Remonti was his last one. And O'Brien actually he's had the likes of Hawkwing, Rip Van Winkle, George Washington well beat, but won it with Ad Valorem, Haradason, Declaration of War, and Circus Maximus. So actually, the lesser known horses for O'Brien often take this race. I thought at a bigger price, Prince Ig might win a race as well. He's got a lovely track profile, and he was second to This Is Us here last time out, got beaten on the line, and that one followed up at Epsom, of course. But Palace Pier might well get short price punters off to a fantastic start in the Queen Anne. Good luck if you're playing in that opener. We're going to move on to a much trickier race, but potentially much more interesting and exciting one from a betting perspective here. So let's have a look at Farthie 305 as we move on to the Coventry Stakes. 6 furlongs is the distance here at Farthie's Juveniles, and it's a fairly funny bunch of 2-year-olds this year. Nothing absolutely knocking it out of the park so far, so this race could be anyone's. Dabab has been well backed for John Gosden, 5-1. Gisborne 11-2. Coffee Maker is 11-2 as well. The Acropolis 6-1, 13-2. Tolstoy, also a lot of money for that one. Masetto 8-1. Ebro River 11s, 12-1. Berkshire Shadow, and bigger prices the rest. Tom, I'm going to come to you first here. Just going to throw you a few stats. Gosden, 1 race 2-year-olds at Royal Ascot. He is 5 from 11 in the past, I think it's 12 years. And of course, he won this with Calix. Saika hit the frame as well. So it's no surprise to see money for Dabab and Tolstoy.
Yeah, no, I like Dabab. I'm not a fan of Tolstoy. I don't think I much prefer Dabab despite the jockey bookings. I thought he was really impressive at Leicester. I've got a few pals who work in the breeze ups, and I think he's the fastest horse in the breeze ups this year. And that's a race of 400 nearly, and he won that one. Then he came out and won at Leicester in a good time. Big fan of his. I think he'll love the ground. I think a stiff 6 will suit him really well. So I'm not surprised there's money for him. He would be my first choice, definitely. Don't understand Wesley Ward's horses. I could easily win. Know nothing about Coffee Maker. Good name though. Good name. The rest are you take your pick. You pay your money. You take your choice. They've all got lots of well bred, good profiles. For me, it's all about Dabab, and the one at a big price I quite like is Rafe Beckett's one right at the top, Angel Blur, by Dark Angel, related to Highland Reel. So the further he goes, the better he'll be. But I think he'll love the ground. I was impressed with him at Doncaster on soft ground, Pontefract last time on soft ground. I don't think he really likes soft ground, but he put the race to bed really quickly after looking in trouble. I think he could run on into the frame, but I think Darbab will win that. I'm quite confident here.
Yeah, a lot of money for Darbab, and Saika also made his debut at Leicester as well. So it almost worked for them last year. It might work for them again this year. Paul, what did you make of this juvenile contest?
Yeah, well, it's always a guess up, as you know, don't you? That's why it's 5-1 the field. I mean, actually, Coffee Maker was a fair bit shorter than that, and put in originally. I mean, all these Wesley Ward horses come with a truckload of gossip, don't they? And let's talk about this one. I mean, but Philly's very rarely running it, let alone win it. I think it's 105 years or something since my money.
Just quickly, Wesley Ward, 0 from 14 over 6 furlongs. So
well, I made him 0 from 18 over further than 5 furlongs. With juveniles, and only 3 of it the top 6. So it's So I mean that's one you have to take on. You don't know, do you? Of course, it could come out looking like a 4-year-old, like Acapulco did a few years ago, and bolt up. You don't know. Darbab did impress at Leicester. An RPR of 92 first time out is pretty good, but I went for a couple of outsiders. One of them that interested me was Berkshire Royal, who unfortunately has been backed since I originally fancied him. Sorry, Berkshire Shadow of Andrew Baldings with Ashley Murphy on. He has no right whatsoever to be winning over 5 furlong on pedigree, and he did so despite completely flopping out the stalls at Newbury, having been in them for a long time. I think there was a bit of a trouble behind. And he came out and he cut a lot of them down. In 4th place that day was Gisborne, who is second favourite. I mean, obviously Gisborne has improved quite dramatically, gone and won by 6 odd lengths next time. But he's been kept back for this ever since. The commentary was mentioned straight after the race. They were thinking of having another go, but they decided to keep him back for it. So I think he's got a serious chance. And I'm just sort of a little bit intrigued by a big outsider, Vintage Clarets, who beaten favourite first time out in the Brocklesby for Richard Fahey. Now, he had an entry in the Windsor Castle and would have been a fair bit shorter for it. I'm just interested in that he's decided to run him here because he's finished very strongly over 5 furlongs. They're only minor races, but on fast ground, which he clearly relishes. His sire won the Windsor Castle. The Dam sire won the Coventry. So there's a bit of an Ascot pedigree there. I just thought 33-1 for a horse that's got experience, knows what he's doing now. I think he might run well at a price.
Yeah, Richard Fahey's horses are flying over the past week or so, aren't they? They've absolutely hit form at bang on the right time. Just throw a couple others in there. Of course, we've got, the Acropolis, of course, the Ballydor representative here. A bit disappointed on soft ground, but I got a very strong time at Listowel, Tom, and the Dam was placed in the Queen Mary. Obviously, Churchill won the Chesham as well. So again, he's got another proper Ascot pedigree. He looked a bit workmanlike, but so I was surprised by how good the figure was, but he'll be strong at the finish.
Yeah, like him too. I mean, you can throw loads in, can't you? I mean, like you said, Adrian O'Brien, I don't know how many times he's won it, but it's clearly
9, I think,
4 or 5 entries, and he's chosen this one. I think they'd like nothing more than to have their first season sire Churchill win the Coventry. They're very, very keen on, that would be the highlight of the week nearly for them because of their breeding aspirations for Churchill. So he's another one. Clearly, you got to throw in the mix there. They could have run 10, and they've chosen him.
Absolutely, he's currently a 6-1 shot here. But David, the money seems to be all for the Gosnell runners.
Yeah, I mean the story of this race, anti-post betting wise, was Coffee Maker. Wesley Ward did his piece in the Racing Post where he outlined his plans, and when he said that the filly was going to run or was more likely to run here than the Queen Mary, we just put her in at 8-1 in the Coventry. She was shortened all the way down to 7-2, but as you can see there, a bit of a correction back out the other way. I think perhaps people have looked at his record over these longer distances and also Philly's record in this race. I don't know how many have tried, having said that, but yeah, she, I should say, is relatively weak now. But look, it's wide open, 5-1 the field. I think that explains why people like Richard Fahey with Vintage Clarets are having a go, because there isn't a standout 2-year-old, and maybe one of them will stamp their mark on this race. But as I say, 5-1 the field, very open, 4 places each way.
Absolutely, 4 places then. Rich had a social comment up on the screen there as well. Don't forget, get in touch. Kinky Cadet is with the Acropolis. Churchill's offspring are starting to bear fruit. Yeah, only a couple of winners for him so far, but of course, They will surely improve for time and distance. So do get your comments in, of course, whether you're watching on Facebook or on YouTube. We'll pick out those live chat comments. So tell us what you are backing on day one of Royal Ascot, and we'll stick it on the screen and see what the pundits make of it as well. So that's the Coventry there for the juvenile contest, the first 2-year-old race of the week. But moving on, we are back into Group 1 company for the 340. It is, of course, the King's Stand Stakes, a rapid 5 furlongs, and there's no one more rapid than Batage at 2-1. Winter Power, though, 9-2. Extravagant Kid has been well backed over the past 24 hours. He's 5-1. Oxted 8-1. Liberty Beach 11-1. Kayamoro at 14-1. 18-1 Kings Lynn and Maven, and bigger prices the rest. And of course, the favourite here, Batage, is now 7 years old, but that's not necessarily stood in the way of winning this race. Soul Power, the Tatling, and Takeover Target, of course, have all won this race at the age of 7. But Paul, he does come here off the back of an injury, and will that affect his speed at all?
Yeah, well, this is the worry, isn't it? Because he apparently didn't start serious work until last month. So you wonder how fit he is. I mean, obviously being such a free-going sort, he can run himself fit pretty quickly, you'd imagine. But you know, he was unbeaten last year for the first season in his life, but he didn't actually hit the heights that he'd hit the previous years when he blistered away in the Nunthorpe and won at Goodwood. You know, in fact, the handicapper actually dropped him £3 by the end of the season, despite the fact that he went unbeaten. He wasn't as dominant over everything as he had been in the past, and I just wonder, you know, if there's a track that's going to catch him out fitness-wise, it's going to be this one. You know, because it is hard. I mean, it is true that only Blue Point has beaten him in his 3 goes in the King's Stand, and he was obviously a very, very good sprinter. But I'd be inclined to take him on. I have liked Winter Power for a while. You know, I mean, you could argue she's short enough now, but I mean, I think I was so impressed with her at York. And, you know, when sprinters start to improve and win by wide margins, which she's done on the last 2 starts now, once on soft ground at Newmarket, once on good at York this season, I just think they're worth following. She's going to get £10 weight for age. She was half a second faster, I think, than course specialist Copper Knight on the same day at York last time, and she was carrying £10 more. Now, had they been running in a conditions race, Copper Knight, I think, would have had to give her £11. So, you know, it's some turnaround. You know, you're talking about the equivalent of her beating him by 10 lengths or something. You know, I mean, it's a lot. And I think she's going to be a real player. I mean, there's a lot of pace in the race, and she'll be up with it. But she's been very strong at the end of her last 2 races, and I don't see why she isn't going to get a really stiff 5 furlongs as well. So I like her best. I've got a very soft spot, and I have had for ages, for Arecibo, who's one of the complete outsiders. And with Jamie Spencer on, and given how much pace there is, I will not be surprised if he completely outruns his price and ruins his handicap mark for the rest of the season.
I can't imagine when Tom Morley bought this horse, they would have minded them ruining the handicap mark.
No, absolutely, no. But I think he might finish in the first 4 or 5.
Of course, Prohibit for the same connections, improved from handicap company to win at Royal Ascot in Group 1 company as well. Just to pick up on something that Paul said and move it to you, Tom, there is a lot of pace in this race, and people obviously expecting it a 5 furlong Group 1 sprint. That's not always the case, is it? There are a lot of early toe in this contest.
Yeah, tons of it. Michael Dodds' filly is just so quick as well, isn't she? She'll be right up there. Obviously got the American horse, the American Wesley Ward's horse as well. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think I like this race as a betting medium because I don't like it at the top of the market at all. I don't like Batage. Obviously, I love Batage, but I don't like him after the preparation he's had on very quick ground. The same for Winter Power. I mean, when she was 8 or 9 to 1, I got her, but I thought she had a big draw advantage the last twice she's run, both on soft ground. This is a totally different kettle of fish. At 4 to 1, she's a no for me. Oxted, I don't understand why he's dropped her back to 5, him back to 5 when he could have run in the Golden Jubilee over 6, his best trip, and during the week. So obviously they've got, you know, they're thinking something is up with him or something. They're trying to do something different with him. And so I was looking at outsider. I mean, I'm a bit of a fan of Extravagant Kid. I think the race was set up for him. But he was about 10 to 1 a few days ago, and now he's into single figures. So I, like Keels, we're looking at a couple of the handicappers. I am a big fan of Arecibo. I just wonder whether he wants soft ground. And so the one I liked and the one I have backed is Stone of Destiny for Andrew Balding. who was third in the dash the other day. He won the Portland, and he is very fast. He will have no trouble going the trip. It's just what he'll find off the bridle. But he's won here before. He's finished fourth in the Stewards Cup over a trip too far. His ideal scenario is a flat out gallop at a stiff track, and I think he's got it tomorrow. And I just thought at 33 to 1, 40 to 1, he could hit the frame. I'm not really an each way punter, as I've made clear over the years, but in this race with this setup, I thought Arecibo and Stone of Destiny could hit the frame, and with 4 places going available, I thought those would be my bets. But on the ground, I prefer Stone of Destiny.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, fifth of the odds, 4 places does look very tempting indeed. Let's have a look at a few social comments, see what our punters at home are looking at. Nijinsky's got in touch. He says, Winter Power, nap of the week by a country mile. That is a very, very strong comment indeed. Let's hope that by the third race, you're not already kicking the cat there, Nijinsky. Danny Spring says, if Potash has half his ability from last season, he will beat these. So Danny Spring is looking at that 2 to 1 about Batash and thinking he should be odds on. And BK Gooner says, Batash, Festival lay for me. Well, again, those 4 places are definitely worth chancing, BK Gooner. And yeah, Batash is, if he's not the same horse that he has after the injury, and I agree with you, Tom, to an extent, that York race, the first 4 home were in the lowest boxes, the last 4 home were in the highest boxes, so it's possible she was in the right place. Extravagant Kid, 8-year-olds in GB sprints, 0 from 48 in the past 12 years again. So it suddenly becomes a wide open each way betting heat, David. You've gone mad offering 4 places.
Yeah, the very competitive one, given we've got a brilliant sprinter as favourite, unbeaten in 3 last year. He came in fresh last year, so I'd have no concerns about that. Jim Crowley, of course, writes a blog for us and has done some video previews as well. Check all those out, of course, on the Coral social pages after this. But Jim says, look, the horse has got all his old zest. He loves Ascot. Don't believe this, that, it's not his ideal track, but he's been second there twice and he's won there. He'll love the quick ground. And I agree with that last tweet there. Said if he's got half his ability, he may need all his ability. But if he is still showing all that, I don't think the others. He'll get a lead for about 2 furlongs and they won't see which way he goes. And on that subject, of course, the first of our price boosts tonight, the track record at Ascot over 5 furlongs, I think is still held by Miss Andretti, but no doubt we will be corrected if that's wrong. We were 8 to 1, Batash to break it. That's out to 10 to 1. And as I say, the quick ground, he'll get a lead from a couple of furlongs and then whoosh, off he'll go.
Okay, Batash, and it's 10 to 1 to break the 5 furlong track record. That would be some start to the week. Just reiterate your selections. Paul, what are we doing?
Yeah, I like Winter Power. I might mess about with Arecibo, see if there's any sort of each way betting in the without markets when they arrive.
Okay, Tom?
Stone of Destiny each way for me.
Okay, very well. And I'll take 2. I kind of disagree with you a little bit on Oxted, Tom. I mean, he's won the Portland, and I thought a really fast, stiff finish over 5 might suit him a little bit. But Liberty Beach, I mean, we haven't mentioned her, but I thought it was a huge run as a 3-year-old to place in this effort, in this race. And the light. So I thought it was quite interesting. The 4-year-olds have won this over the past few years. We've had Profitable and Blue Point had run well the previous year as 3-year-olds placing in Group 1 company, and then they strengthened up and got it right as a 4-year-old. So I think she could be very interesting at double-figure odds with 4 places on offer. So that's the King's Stand then, Group 1, the second Group 1 of the week. Batash is the one they all have to beat at 2 to 1. Moving on then to another Group 1. We really are spoiling you, day 1 of Royal Ascot. And this is possibly one of the most competitive St James's Palaces we have seen in years. Poetic Flair, who's contractually obliged to run in every possible race he can, is 7 to 2. Battleground 11 to 2. Lucky Vega is 6 to 1. Mosterdaf 13 to 2. Thundermoon 7s with Highland Avenue 9 to 1. Chindit, and then it's a big jump out to 18 to 1. La Barossa. But I mean, this is a real proper burn up here between some really interesting horses who've met in the Guineas, of course, Poetic Flair, Battleground, Lucky Vega, and Thundermoon, and horses coming from other angles like Mosterdaf and Highland Avenue as well. Tom, I'm going to come to you first. Talk us through the 3-year-old mile division and how you see it. Are you with English, Irish Guineas, or are you going for the horses who've skipped those 2 races? What are you playing?
I think, Ross, it's the most confusing race of the whole of Royal Ascot. I have no idea what's going to happen. You can fancy them all. You can fancy them all in little ways. And bits. I thought I don't know. I mean, at the start of the week, I was looking at Highland Avenue because I thought he was on the wrong ground, on the wrong part of the track at Sandown last time. But I don't like track 12 for him. I was then looking at Mostadaf, and I thought, yeah, he's in stall 1. That'll be all right. But then you got the O'Briens in 2, 3, and 4, and I thought he'd struggle to get a run, and so I just got confused by it and gave up halfway through. I'd like Lucky Vega to win because I thought he was a bit unlucky in the Guineas, and I think it's a throw-out run in Ireland last time, and my 2 would be Lucky Vega and Chindit, because Chindit was clearly disadvantaged by the draw at Ascot, Newmarket in the Guineas. But I thought it was really hard. Poetic Flair can easily win. Battlegrounds expected to bounce back. Wembley was the best 2-year. So look, it's too hard for me. I'll leave this to the other boys. But if I had to have a dart, it would be Lucky Vega, even though I would prefer a better draw than 11.
Yeah, Lucky Vega then, who, like you said, especially at the Curragh, came from God knows where to bag 4th. Was sent off favoured, of course, to turn the form around. And you're right. I mean, Tom has waved the white flag, Paul.
Is he not a bit professionally unlucky, Lucky Vega? No, doesn't
Unlucky
really live
Vega.
up to his name, does he?
He's not at all, no.
So that worries me about him. I mean, your starting point is Poetic Flair. I think he clearly deserves to be favourite. He's won the Guineas on good, firm ground. He came within inches of winning at the Curragh on heavy ground. He's versatile. He's tough. But this will be his 5th run of the season, and 4th in Group 1s. I mean, that's it's some ask in the middle of June, isn't it? So and then looking at the others, I couldn't have Mostadaf or Highland Avenue at all. I mean, I just thought that was a run-of-the-mill listed race. Mostadaf was on soft ground too. Mostadaf's a half-brother to Nazif, who'd done a Group 1 winning on soft ground. So he's got that to prove. But they were only, a length and half a length ahead of Bull Ace, who's 28, 33 to 1, something like that.
It's really the Gosden factor.
Yeah, that's it, because he ran without parole in that Sandown race and came along and won it here, and King of Comedy won that Sandown race, came along and finished 2nd here before turning into a bit of a hound. And not
even Lord North,
through.
was well beaten in that Heron Stakes. So he likes to run a good horse.
Yeah, he likes to run a good horse in there. But I think it's probably wrong ground on that. And I come to look at it, and as Tom alluded to there, Chindit was on the wrong side at Newmarket, but I also don't think he handled the track. I don't think he likes soft ground when he was well beaten in the Dewhurst. But if you see him, he doesn't make any ground in the dip, but only starts to make it when he comes out. And his form figures away from Newmarket, 1-1, 1-1, and he won a listed race here. From Cobe and Naval Crown, and he fairly bolted up. I mean, it looked like he really, really liked the track, and that worked out really well. Obviously, Naval Crown was 1 place ahead of him in the Guineas, but he won a group race at the end of the season. Kobe was 2nd, ended the season rated 107. So, I mean, it was a very good race, and I think if Chindit is going to be a Group 1 miler, it'll be tomorrow.
Yeah, you're right. There's the undulations at Newmarket. Clearly, he just can't quite get into the rhythm you saw him get into. Other tracks. Chindit then is currently a 9 to 1 shot here for Paul. Tom is waving the white flag here, but thinks that Lucky Vega might well get his day in the sun, although price has gone a little bit at 6 to 1. What's the story of the market here, David? Again, are punters finding this as confusing as Tom, or are some old favourites coming through? I see that lights of Thunder Moon and maybe Battleground, a few of the Irish horses have shortened up.
Yeah, Battleground is very much the mover in the last sort of 24 hours, and Mostadaf has gone the other way. He was as short as 4 to 1, the Heron Stakes winner, out to 13 to 2, but that was very much, it was based on that. John Gosden likes to run a good horse in it, and even comparisons with Palace Pier last year, of course, skipped the Guineas, ran a race at Newcastle, and then came here and won this. So punters perhaps adding 2 and 2, and maybe they're getting 4.5. But Poetic Flair, what an incredible horse. I mean, he's clearly as tough as his trainer. Will these races catch up with him? I don't know, but he will start favourite, I'm sure of that. And look, 3 Group 1s tomorrow, 3 fairly warm favourites. Well, one very warm in Palace Pier, 1 in Batash and 1 in Poetic Flair. You can have any 2 of those 3 to win. We were 5 to 4 on that. So any 2 of those 3 favourites to win in the Group 1s, 5 to 4, out to 6 to 4.
Okay, 2 of 3 then from Palace Pier, Batash and Poetic Flair. 6 to 4 out from 5 to 4. A stat in the...
Yeah, another 4 place giving it away on the first day.
Okay, each way doubles and trebles, a go-go, I think then. Social comments here from the Terminator. He says Chindit for me and Better Ground for La Barossa. And I'm sure you'll be back later on in the show as well. And Kinky Cadet says Frankie on Thunder Moon. Simples with an emoji. Fair enough. Maybe I think we should change Paul and Tom's tipping style and we should go for that kind of thing. I'd like quotes from adverts, Tom, and emojis, please, if that's all right.
Can I just butt in and say I did get your joke there, Ross? I know it passed over everyone else's head, but I got it.
It's been a long day, a long hot day getting down here, Tom, so I'm not sure I delivered it that well, but never mind. We'll improve as the week goes on, that's for sure. Just to reiterate selections, Tom, you're smallish Lucky Vega.
Small Lucky Vega and Chindit would be my two, but I won't. I'm as I say, white flag for me on that one.
Okay, and Paul?
Chindit for me. Yeah, I think he's got a big chance.
Yeah, David, do you have a view here? What would you be backing?
I backed a couple. I backed Chindit and I backed Mostadaf. So we can put a line through both of those.
Yeah, I've backed Chindit and Mostadaf as well, anti-post, so I hope not. I backed Mostadaf before the Heron Stakes and thought as long as he doesn't get that inside rail, and there he is in box one. But if Adiyar can do it, then who knows, maybe Mostadaf can do it as well. And Chindit was very eye-catching in the Guineas, although admittedly, I am hoping he steps up to 10 furlongs soon. That is the St James's Palace Stakes then. Good luck in that third Group 1 of the day. If it gets to the end of the St James's Palace and you're yet to back a winner, well, here's the news, it doesn't get any easier, that's for sure. The last three races, we've got big fields aplenty to get stuck into. Although admittedly, the Ascot Stakes traditionally is fairly punter-friendly. Top of the market, Irish-trained horse from a jumping yard, and you've pretty much narrowed it down to one or two runners. And one of those is the favourite for this year's Ascot Stakes in the shape of MC Muldoon at 4-1. Golden Rules is 7-1, does not tick those boxes. Cape Gentleman is 7s, Rayapore 10s, Just Hubert 11s, Coeur de Lion 12s with Elysian Flame at 12s, 14-1, Untold Story and bigger prices the rest. And Tom, just to mention something, of course, this race last year didn't have any Irish runners because they were restricted from sending them over for the quote-unquote lower grade contests. So do you think that the Irish runners over here, is that more of a vote of confidence that they've bothered to go through all the regulations to have a crack?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember the last time a non-hurdler, a horse that hadn't run over hurdles won this race. And as you point out, most of them are Willie Mullins trained or, trained by a big yard out there. So listen, the fact that he's running three, I remember when Lagos to Vegas won 2 years ago, didn't he have 5 of the first 6 or 4 of the first 5? He's got an incredible record. When you got 300 hurdlers rated 150, it's probably not that hard to find a well-handicapped one. And I think he's probably found 3 there. So he's got MC Muldoon, who is clearly the fancied one with Ryan Moore on. I don't like horses wearing hoods. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It's a worry for me that he could pull hard, and so I'm against him. Rayapore, Mighty wants soft ground, bit inexperienced. So I was against him this year. I just thought, I'll go against the trends and go for a couple of British trained horses that haven't run over hurdles.
The last one, by the way, Tom, was Judge the Moment for Jane Chappell-Hyam and Richard Hughes in 2009.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it? I think there's lots of reasons, isn't there? The pedigrees now are less stamina laden, they're more speed laden, I think, and consequently there aren't that many flat horses that stay this far. So you're looking for hurdlers most of the time. I'm against them though. I'm going to go against Mullins this year. I'm going to go for Just Hubert, who's just sort of my cliff horse. I love Just Hubert. We won the marathon at Goodwood. I'm worried about Trap 19, but he's going to be dropped in anyway. So I thought he'd run well, simply because he likes fast ground and stays very well. And the other one was a totally sort of a touchy-feel one, Untold Story for Side Vinceror, who won a race on the all-weather in tremendous style. It's worked out really well. Worthily, who John Gosden ran in the Derby, was second. A horse that ran into a monster of Godolphins on the all-weather the other day of Charlie Fellows was fourth. Don't you believe that Nick Gifford's horse that won the other day on the flat was tailed off out the back? I just thought it was a really strong race, and he didn't like soft ground last time. And his pedigree is one of total stamina. All his relatives reached ratings of 105. Got Winning Story in there, who was a 2-miler. He's got another horse that improved over 2 miles. I'm just hoping, I don't know if he'll stay 2.5 miles, but I think he's better than the marker 94. I think he'll like fast ground. And so Untold Story and Just Hubert were my 2 against the hurdlers and the Mullins Battalion.
Okay, untold story then. Saib Bin Saror and Oisin Murphy had 4 runners in the past 2 weeks and they've all won. So that combination bodes well. But yeah, you've gone for box 1 and box 19 there. Tom, you've got 2 ways of having luckless runs throughout this race.
Exactly. I'll get hampered once and go around. I'll get hampered 40 times in trap 1 and go around the wide outside Buffalo Girls, trap 19.
Welcome to Royal Ascot, the round track, of course. So, ignoring the hurdlers for Tom, are you going with the trends or are you going against?
Yeah, I mean, I don't worry so much about the draw and races on the round course anyway. In fact, you know, a mile and a half and a mile 6, I'd say you're better off being high. But I mean, 4 of the last 8 winners have been drawn 16 or higher, so I wouldn't be too concerned. I'm against them as well. I mean, you know, MC Muldoon, you wouldn't have backed him to get a mile and a half when he was with Peter Chapel-Hyam, would you? And well, in fact, he didn't get a mile and a half with him. I mean, you know, Willie Mullins trained Penn Hill and he used to race so keenly on the flat, you wouldn't back him to get 3 mile over hurdle and he won the Stayers, didn't he? So, you know, he could easily get the trip, but one of his other ones, Rayapur, I mean, that's just all soft ground form and that's not going to have it. So I came down as well with Tom, it's quite interesting, Just Hubert. Danny Tobo rode him for the first time for a couple of years last time at Haydock and he was 2 from 2 on him before. And it was really soft ground at Haydock and he was last turning into the straight and he just kept plugging on into third. That was 2 mile, 2.5 mile. Like Tom said, he won the 2.5 mile race at Goodwood. And he was, you know, he's been a decent stayer for a while. He was 5th in the Melrose in between winning some fair handicaps as a 3-year-old. So I think he's going to be a massive player. And obviously William York, Chris Grassick are absolutely flying. They've had 4 winners since Pile Driver won the Coronation Cup. So, you know, they're going really well. And the other one, you know, I always look, when it comes to stayers, I like Mark Johnston. He's won plenty of staying races at this track, and I just thought Trumpet Man was a bit, just a little bit overpriced. I mean, he was only beaten 3.5 lengths in the Chester Cup behind Falcon 8, and he was on the inside, and it just got very tight. You wouldn't be able to say that Franny Norton was, you know, had to stop riding at any stage, but he could barely had the chance to pick up his whip. I think he managed to only get 2 cracks with it, and he kept on responding, and he does stay very well. I think, you know, one of his best runs, he won by 6 lengths on heavy ground at Haydock, so that proves he really does stay, but he's got plenty of good ground form as well, so I'm not so worried about conditions. So they would be my 2 against the field.
Okay, very well. Paul's 2 against the field there for the Ascot Stakes wide open contest. MC Muldoon at 4-1. David, how many places are you throwing at us for this?
5 places each way for this one. So the market headed obviously by Ryan Moore, Willie Mullins. That's factored into the price for sure. But if it's not going to be Willie Mullins, could it be Emmett Mullins? Cape Gentleman, Rachel Blackmore. Of course, what a year she's had. 10-1 into 7-1 today as well. And there is a little bit of money around for Just Hubert as well. We were 14 earlier this afternoon, now into 11-1. So, yeah, another... I mean, apart from really Palace Pier tomorrow, I think all the races tomorrow are wide open. And I think I've got a lovely feel if you do like the each-way multiples.
Absolutely, yeah. You were saying, yeah, Rachel Blackmore and Emmett Mullins. If it wasn't, you know, the middle of June, that'd be quite a lethal combination in the spring. That Paul. Rachel Blackmore has, of course, ridden plenty. I think she's 8 winners on the flat.
Yeah, I mean, she can ride, can't she? It's as simple as that, isn't it? Yeah. She's just very good.
If she had a ride in the King Stand, you wouldn't be worried, would you?
No, you wouldn't be worried. She's you know, she's just really good, and you know, whatever she rides, we'll get a ride.
Absolutely, yeah, she's always in the right position. Cape Gentleman 7-1. Just a quick shout out for a couple of bigger prices, and if you can give me some prices for this one for 2, David. Thought Lost with Eel was a very interesting runner. It's a big ask this on only 5th start to step up to this trip, but I thought he looked a horse who would really progress into his 4th and 5th year. And also Postileo from that same Just Hubert form line, who I thought was stuck down the inside of the rail. And to be fair, he's potentially a horse who makes his own bad luck. But I thought either of those could run quite well. Lost with Eel and Postileo, David?
Yeah, not massive prices. Lost with Eel 16-1, Postileo 14-1. So again, look, all sorts of horses attracting support in this. Perhaps sensing that for all Willie Mullins, Ryan Moore, great combination. There are perhaps a few question marks over this market leader, and he's not one that punters are afraid to take on.
Okay, MC Muldoon then is the market leader at 4-1 for the Ascot Stakes. Just checking with that producer. Any social comments for this one before we move on? No, move on straight away. Doesn't mince his words, does Rob. Moving on then to the 5:35, the penultimate race on day 1 of Royal Ascot. And this used to be a fantastic little handicap to get stuck into as well. But of course, it's now simply a listed race. Quality's probably gone up a little bit, but it might be harder to find something at a big price to get stuck into. Patrick Sarsfield heads the betting here for the Joseph O'Brien stable with Tom Marquand on board at 7-2. There's been quite a bit of money for Felix over the past few days. He's now 9-2, joint second favourite with Forest of Dean. Solid Stone is 11-2, Blue Cup 15-2, Yukon Glen 14s. Stormy Antarctic is a non-runner. They're probably waiting for a slightly softer ground for him. Foxtel is 16-1 and it's bigger price as the rest. So 13 of them line up here with Stormy Antarctic out. And to be fair, since this was made into just a simple listed race, not a listed handicap, quality has tended to come to the fore. Of course, Adaib won this a couple of years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, it can be a very, very good race, and I'm a bit disappointed that the price was collapsed about Felix. But having said that, I thought he should have been near enough favourite anyway. I thought he was, it's been sort of underestimated because he was a 33-1 chance in Dubai when he was third to Lord North in the Dubai turf. But if you look at that race, he had absolutely no choice whatsoever but to drop him in right at the back because he couldn't get across. He was drawn right out wide. I mean, I know he's a hold-up horse anyway, but he came from a long way back. He followed Lord North through. I think 1 mile 1 probably wasn't quite far enough from him anyway, but he's really, really strong at the end. And it wasn't a fluke because he'd run 3 consecutive career bests on the all-weather that winter. He gets a £5 from Forest of Dean. I think having finished just behind him at Lingfield, and it's not like Sir Michael Stout to let one of these late maturing horses slip through his hands, was he? But he left Sir Michael Stout with the mark of 88, and he's now 110 with Marco Botti since December 2019, and he's just run a career best virtually every time he has run, and keeps doing so. And I basically think he's got a massive chance.
Was it anything to do with the Fittock stud? Because the Luca Kumani, of course, had a lot of those runners. Was it a dispersal?
Well, it went from Luca Kumani to Sir Michael Stout, and then,
of course.
And then I think he was just bought, and they got rid of him basically.
Yeah, but I mean, he came from God knows where, didn't he, at Maidan? And I mean, that's the right kind of run style, isn't it? If he's in a pouncing position.
I think there's a few that like to go forward as well. I think it would be a reasonably run race. So.
Okay, very well then. Felix, who has been heavily backed here at Father Wolferton Stakes. But we've got quite a few quality animals necessarily here, Tom, but plenty of horses who've been showing their hand in listed Group 3 and Group 2 company. So, the top of the betting here it is pretty tight. There's not too many in here you think are tilting at windmills.
No, I think it's a very tight race. I didn't think it was the greatest race on the card tomorrow. I was like for Keels, I quite like Felix. I liked his run style. I thought he'd get the race set to suit. I think Solid Stone could run well for Michael Stout, but once again, it was one of those races where I think Keels probably when he did this Felix was about 8 or 9-1, wasn't it? And now it's sort of 9-2, and it's sort of becoming to a price where that's a fair price. Do I want to back it at 9-2? It's about the right price. It's probably about the right price now, is what you're saying. When it was 8-1, he was too big, I thought. I think Patrick Sarsfield's obviously got a chance. I didn't really think Blue Cup was going to be total. I thought he was sort of advantaged by the ground and the way the race went last time. I mean, I'm loath to be against anything Menwisier trains because he's obviously very good, but I thought he might struggle under these conditions. But trying to find one outside the obvious, I thought was quite hard. I thought originally I was planning on tipping like Keels did or backing Felix. I haven't backed him, and I probably missed him now, so I probably won't. Patrick Sarsfield's got a perfectly good chance, and so has Solid Stone. Apart from those 3, I think you could throw in Foxtel as a possibility on what he showed a few years ago, but he's a bit bonkers now. I wonder whether the switch back to fast ground and Ascot might help him, but tricky race. If
he settled, Tom, Foxtel. I mean, if he settled is the big question for this horse. As you said, he does have a bit of a tendency to look a bit of a crazy one. But like I said, that the fourths are magical, and he's got some fantastic form, hasn't he?
Absolutely. On that run, he wins this. But that was soft ground. I think he'll want the fast ground myself. I thought he ran better last time, even though he pulled a bit hard. Was it Sandown last time he ran? Yeah. Started at Chester, and I thought that was a bit of a Mickey Mouse race, and he sort of got the run of the race and still couldn't win. Thought he was better at Sandown. He could be better again, so he could go well. But once again, those bookie chaps have sort of shortened up all the interesting ones to the right prices around now, I probably would have gone for Felix now. It sounds boring, but I'll sit out again and maybe have a look at Foxtel when the markets are up and full and running tomorrow.
Okay, could you have a quick word on Yukon Glen as well, Paul? Because, I mean, this horse, every time he wins a race, they go, he's fluked it, he's not the best horse in the race, this should have won, that should have won, and he just keeps going and going and going.
Yeah, he won the Brig, didn't he, last time at Sandown? Only a 4-runner race, but he acts up, didn't he? He's an amazing horse, isn't he? Trained brilliantly by Jim Goldie. It would bring a smile to everyone's face if he wins, whether you backed him or not. He's got a penalty, hasn't he? So be a little bit of a worry, and there are some sort of younger, unexposed horses coming in, but that was the case last time too. So, no, he wouldn't surprise you. He's just one of those hardy battlers that keeps on coming back for more.
Yeah, absolutely. Yukon Glen is currently a 14-1 shot here, David. Like I said, a few of these have been shortening up. This is actually, like I said, one of the sort of liveliest betting heats of day one from the price I was looking at yesterday. Talk us through it from your end.
Yeah, I mean, the two, obviously, that have shortened up have been given a good mention. Felix is one, obviously, now into 9-2, and real momentum behind him, could easily be challenging favouritism. And, of course, another one there, Tom mentioned, Blue Cup. I think we all got him wrong at Epsom when we previewed the Derby meeting. I should probably get him wrong again tomorrow because I'm going to stick with him. And I just have to take my hat off to Tom's pronunciation of David Manousier's surname, because I couldn't even get close to pronouncing it like Tom did. Tom, that was bravo, my friend.
Menuisier. Yeah, you see, that's what a French O-level gets you, Mr. Stevens. You should have concentrated more at your possible.
That's what a lifetime of having your own surname mispronounced as well, Tom, I imagine gets you. You've sorted it out. So that is the penultimate race then of day one of Royal Ascot. The last race is the Copper Horse Stakes, one of the fresh races on the week, of course, to take it to 7 races every single day. And last year was a very competitive heat, won by Fujairah King, who was well backed in the market. And this looks an absolutely wide open betting heat. But with 16 runners, this could be one of the each way betting races of the day, if not the week. Saldier, though, is well backed at the head of the market here at 11-4. People may be playing up Mullins doubles tomorrow. Saldier 11-4, Global Storm 9-2, Throne Hall 9-1, Arthurian Fable is 9-1, 11-1 on to Victory, 14 Sleeping Lion. Rajinsky is out again. He's normally seen on slightly softer ground. Brilliant Light is 16-1. Then bigger prices the rest. Then here as the money has piled in for Saldier, who of course is a Grade 1 winning hurdler in his pomp. But we were talking off air about this race a bit, Paul, and we were talking round track, handicaps, big fields. The first 4 in the betting here, all drawn single figures. How many times have we seen it over the years where those horses don't get a run and the so-called poorly drawn horses rattle down the outside?
Yeah, it happens year in, year out, doesn't it? I think what happens is there's a bit of a rush, isn't there? And they end up with an absolute wall of horses behind them and can't get through. We see lots of bad luck stories, and they tend to be from the ones that are on the inside. I mean, Saldier could obviously go forward because he has done that over hurdles in the past. I mean, my issue with him, other than the price, I mean, let's face it, he's a 160 hurdler running off 103. He could be, he could be well ahead, but ground, he'd probably never run on anything as fast as this. Might want it, who knows? But I mean, it's a question mark. But there's a horse in here. I'm completely baffled by its price, so I just thought going with that, and that's the Max We Can for Mark Johnston. Now he is, he's got stacks and stacks of fast ground staying form to his name, including finishing 4th in this race last year when he got messed about early, got messed about in the straight again, and was flying home late. I mean, I'd say 1 mile 6 is probably on the short side for him, but he wants really fast ground. He's run twice here on fast ground. He finished, he beat Sleeping Lion pretty easily over 2 miles when he was a 3-year-old, and he finished 4th in this race last year. Let's not forget how good that race was either, because Fujairah Prince won the Ebor next time, and the runner-up was now a Grade 1 winner in Australia. So it was a really, really good race. This is possibly up to standard as well, but I think it's 22-1 with Coles. With the extra places, he actually returned with a career best on Racing Post rating figures at Musselburgh when he won. And I know he was last of 3 last time to Rajinsky, but he was only beaten 3 lengths. Rajinsky's since come out and been a close second at Haydock, and that was a 3-runner race. And I just don't, I don't think that's for him really.
And
So,
I mean, if anything, I'd rather back a Mark Johnston horse after finishing last more than finishing
well,
first.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But I just think he's, I think he's a bit of a crazy price at 20-1, especially with the extra place on offer.
Yeah, Johnston, of course, over the staying trips at Royal Ascot, he's won 10 1.5 handicaps at the Royal Meeting and 7 Queen's Vases. So the further they go, the better for Mark Johnston and the max we can with James Doyle. David, what price we got?
22-1, the max we can. So now Kills has tipped it up. I'm sure it'll be popular. 4 places each way in that one. In terms of others, shorter prices being backed. I mean, the favourite is strong, but I think you're right. There's an element of Willie Mullins, Ryan Moore doubles at play here. And then one that I've missed the price on typically is Arthurian Fable. Was 16-1, I think, yesterday. Now down to 9-1. He's won over this trip. He's won on good firm ground. And he's Jim Crowley's final ride of the day. And Jim is the subject of our final price boost. Jim, so close to being crowned top jockey here 12 months ago. He was done on countback by that pesky Dettori. But Jim, 4 rides tomorrow, and we have enhanced him riding a double tomorrow. It was 6-1 that he rides a double, the 2 or more winners, but that's now out to 8-1. So hopefully, Jim, he got off to a brilliant start on Tuesday last year. Hopefully, more of the same tomorrow.
Jim Crowley then to ride 2 or more winners on Tuesday is 8-1 from 6-1. Of course, he is fantastic round this track. Tom, what did you make of this closing handicap?
You boys have stolen my thunder a bit because I like Arthurian Fable. I thought he had a really good chance. I think if you like the form of the Max Weekends race last year, I thought the King George, the 5th handicap, was even better. It was won by, I can't remember now, but Subjectivist.
Oh, that good, was it?
Sorry?
That good,
yeah, it was that good. I forgot the name of the horse that won it. But Subjectivist was 3rd, and Arthurian Fable was messed around the whole time. He was too keen. And he was hampered by the winner, who was Hookham.
Yeah, of course it was. Yeah.
He went on to be a group race horse, and I thought that was really good form. I am worried about Trap 1. It is a nightmare draw, but I think the thing he's been looking out for is fast ground. He was 2nd in the Melrose on soft ground. He stays very well. He's been trained for the race. I just thought he was going to go really well. The price has gone. I see that now, and straw 1 is definitely a worry. It has to be a worry because you could get in all sorts of trouble. But you can go forward this horse. The thing about this race is it was the first running last year, and the bend comes within a furlong and a half. And if you can get a position, it is quite good. It is quite. It can't be a bad thing because Fujira Prince was sort of 2nd the whole way round last year. It wasn't like he was ever trap wide or anything. So I wouldn't be so worried about the draw in this particular race, but I could be wrong about that. It seems to happen a lot in Ascot that they all sort of get on that rail and then something comes up the middle. So that was my fancy Arthurian Fable, and I was quite keen on him until I saw the price, saw Mr. Stevens cut it to single figures.
Yeah, the first 5 home last year drawn 16, 9, 19, 14 and 10. And like you said, that bend does come quite quickly. But in a way, I'm kind of hoping Arthurian Fable gets well beaten because I think he could be very much an e-ball horse, Tom. So I'm hoping that he's a bigger price for that. I'm back 2 at bigger prices before we wrap up, who are also wide drawn. Hyana, who runs this track very, very well indeed. Never runs a bad race and is well handicapped. She finished a close 2nd off a very similar mark a couple of years ago. And Rob Hornby gets in the saddle. And also Sleeping Lion as well, who is a bit of a thinker. But he switched to Roger Charlton. And Roger Charlton, first time out, shocking record this year. But this horse did beat Postoleo first time out and could be interesting from box 13. So Sleeping Lion and Hyana fought the last. We're going to wrap up very quickly. Let's get the naps on day 1 of Royal Ascot. Paul Kealy, what's the best bet?
Yeah, I like Felix in the Wolferton, which is 5.35.
OK, Felix then for Paul. Tom?
Darbab in the Coventry for me.
Darbab in the Coventry. David, what's your nap?
I'm taking a real flyer, taking Tom on. I'm going for Ebro River for Hugo Palmer in the Coventry.
Ebro River in the commentary then, and I think Liberty Beach each way in the King's Stand. I'd be very surprised if she's not in the mix. Thanks for joining us. We're here all week, as we said, a little bit later than normal, 7 till 8 p.m. Like and subscribe to the stream as well. Get your comments in. And of course, don't forget, we've got an offer on that members club as well, using the code INTHEKNOW. And of course, we can't go without saying, please gamble responsibly. It is a long week, and we want to stick with it throughout the 5 days. I've been Ross Brierley. We'll see you this time, well, an hour earlier anyway, tomorrow night. Enjoy.